you make it through like one intro without saying something? Just one.
Okay.
I got it.
Am I the bear or the beaver?
It'll be the otter.
Definitely the top, though. Can a bear be a bottom?
Worse. I think so, yeah. A bear can be all kinds of things. I cannot imagine anything worse than being, no offense, your bottom.
Don't even.
Welcome to the show. My name is Dean.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I don't want to try it. I've been wedgied once. I'm good. That is Lachlan Cross. I am Dean. Nice to see everybody. We got a busy show today. We're going to talk about tips. By the way, just pissing rain. Tips on picking up your food. By the way, I got aggro again. I keep getting in fights when I go and pick up food, and I don't cook that much anymore. But now I'm in this like mode of like, really 20% to put it on the counter. Really 30%. It starts at 20, goes to 30. Are you fucking serious? On $100 bill, you want me to give you $30 just for putting it on the counter? I was furious yesterday. Couldn't even handle it.
We need to have a conversation about why you're so angry right now.
Dude, it's incredible. I'm you know how everybody's got a phase? You're like, oh, I'm in my, you know, when you're like between the ages of 0 to 21, you're in your learning phase. From 21 to like 35, you're in your like find out phase. 35 to like 42, 43, you're in your middle age crisis, probably drink too much because of all the shit that came up in your life and you can't handle it. And then you're into this 45 to 50. You should be in this like, oh, settle down phase. That's what I've been in. I just, in my head. Okay. Just make them up. Yeah. And then, I'm the whole thing right now I'm making up. It's a sociological bullshit jam. That's what I'm doing. But I'm in this phase where you should just be nice and relaxed. Everything's good. Everything's in front of me. Lots of great things. Business is great on a bunch of different levels. This is still fun, kind of. But I'm in this mode now. And I don't mean doing this with you. I just mean like communicating with people. Like, you know, I said this off the top of the last week. So now everybody that is... I'm in this phase, this angry phase. Everybody that gets in my way, I get annoyed. Like, you know, when you're walking through the mall, someone just chooses to cut right in front of you because they're not paying attention. That makes me angry. Someone who is in traffic who doesn't turn when they should, left turn, lots of space. They don't turn.
I was going to bring up, are you getting into fights again on the road?
No. Road rage, I've been good. I've been managed to, you know, not be so angry road ragey. I just get angry at dumb shit now. It's like and it's not like I don't have anything going on. My life is incredibly full. I shouldn't have had to admonish the lady at Chef Chan yesterday for handing me my chicken sugai or whatever the fuck was in the bag, which I didn't eat. I got it for the kids. And to hand me the little pay terminal that started at 20% tip. I looked at that and I turned it over and I said, let's try that again. She goes, you can choose no tip. I'm like, no, you can do that. Actually, I want you to put in no tip.
Okay. Let's talk about this at the end of the show. Okay.
I was so mad yesterday.
Okay.
It went up
because I don't even know.
Went 20.
I don't want to start. I know. 30.
It's a thing for me now. It's like I'm on a mission. We should start a fucking movement in this country. Dude, if you can start a hillbilly movement that ends with camping out in the middle of Ottawa for 3 weeks over not caring about life, I can start a movement.
You're going to have a hard time getting people on board on a
I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. I think we can go to Ottawa.
We'll talk about it.
And we set up a tent, make some chili, have the people.
Let's do another GoFundMe.
The People's Police Force.
Skipping issues.
Anyway, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I did too. It included one phone call from one Lachlan Cross. There's a lot of heat around your experience with this UFO. You go down to Joshua Tree, take your yoga teacher training. You're there for 2 weeks. Your friend Sarah plays the bowls, these sound bowls. You're like, we're going to see an alien.
She's awesome at that.
You reported seeing a bright light in the sky that had 2 hemispheres. We've covered this on the show. May the 6th. Don, this guy, Don, I don't even know his last name, Don Wilson. He saw the same thing, same spot, same time, same time. Everything was the exact same. Gave you chills. Gave him chills.
I tried to get a hold of Don. We were going back and forth talking. I sent him links to the podcasts where we talked about that and Don didn't get back to me. I think he's scared to come on the podcast. Anyway, he sent me some pictures because he actually took some pictures of the UFO that we saw. Okay, so now let me set this up because you've done an excellent job of the first podcast. The second podcast we did on aliens, which was last Friday, so last week.
Yeah,
I retold you a story about a dream I had that scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, it was very clear, lots of color. You got teabagged by two alien balls, and there was some kind of shaft in there.
I got picked up, and I was floating. Anyway,
by
and
balls.
We talked about it. You can go listen to that podcast or watch it on Crier Media YouTube page. We're still having issues with the Lochlin Locker Room YouTube page and the Dean Blundell YouTube page. But what?
Just so I'm clear, they were two giant silver balls.
There was one orb that came down in front of me and another one off to the side. Okay, and they were silver.
Okay.
And
was it egg-shaped? Was it round?
It was more round, but it was I wish I was a better artist because I would have drawn a picture of it. And the reason why it's so significant to me is because I never dream. I don't remember my dreams. I sleep like a rock. Okay?
And this dream happened shortly after you got back from having this otherworldly encounter, correct?
Thursday, May 23rd. And it also happened after I read that book / listened to Diane Walsh Pascal's book called Encounters.
D.W. Pascula is her name.
Pascula, okay, yeah. I was close. Nailed it. Anyway, and so I brought that up because I didn't want people to the hypocrisy of me not bringing it up would have bothered me. So I brought it up because I've been like for 7 straight hours on a drive for an interview. I listened to this book, okay? And so it was in my head, and that's what I thought it was. But then on Friday afternoon, when I was like communicating with the Joshua Tree group, and there's some of them still down there that I'm familiar with, Sarah included, and my roommate Andrew from my YTT teacher training, he got back to me and said, listen, I saw something on Thursday, May 23rd. Now, we're going to bring Andrew on to explain this sighting, but before we do, I need to point out that
same day as your dream? Same day as your dream?
Yes.
Okay.
And
I'm following, yeah.
It could have been around the same time because I went to bed shortly after the end of the hockey game. And I didn't drink. Well, I did, but I didn't drink a lot on Thursday night. And I have a feeling that my encounter in my dreams is tied to their encounter because we're all this. Like,
yeah, you're all tight. You spent 2 weeks in the bush with a group of people.
We experienced something together, not just an alien sighting.
Yeah, you experienced vulnerability together and an alien sighting for 2 weeks.
Yes.
You ate together, farted together, slept together. It brings people close. Now, this group that's still down there, you're suggesting has seen the same thing. There has been another
something similar
of almost the exact same kind. Bright light disappears into itself, almost the same place, incredibly bright, 2 sides, a hemisphere. And you're suggesting that sighting may have happened in and around the exact same time. It's just a suggestion that you think in your head because you've done the math. At the exact same time, you had this incredibly vivid dream of being teabagged by 2 alien testicular orbs.
I wish you wouldn't use the word teabag.
Okay,
well, bring Andrew on because I want to hear Andrew's version of the sighting. We have not talked. We've just texted back and forth.
Okay, so this is Andrew. He's down at Joshua Tree. Andrew Vetter. Welcome to the program, Andrew. Nice to see you.
Greetings. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. Did you guys live together? Were you his roommates? Is that the deal? How do you know him?
I was his roommate. We lived in about a 10 by 10 space where he would snore upon me every night, and we became brothers quickly.
We did sleep in different beds. I want to just clarify that.
No head to toe.
I wasn't
action.
on top of Andrew.
On some of the nights.
What's the snoring like? What's Lochlin's snoring game like? Is it bad?
There's a rhythm to it. So I decoded it day by day, and I think by the 5th day, I figured out about an hour in, he would rotate to his side and give me 20
Yeah.
20 minutes of silence, and that was my window.
Yeah, that's good. That was your window. That's where you could actually get a little sleep, is when Lochlin turned over. The other thing that works with a guy like that is if you hit him with a pillow, they'll kind of get, disturbed, and they'll stop snoring for a second, but you got to get to sleep inside like 3 to 4 minutes, Andrew. That's the deal.
Totally.
Or smother him. Smother the man. Yeah.
Or hit him with like a bag, like a pillowcase full of soaps, those hard soaps.
So, Andrew, can you set up your sighting from Thursday night, May 23rd, down at the Kootenai Yoga School YTT compound, the yoga teacher training? Can you give us a rundown on what you guys saw?
For sure. And before I do that, I just wanted to check in. How is my service? Am I glitching out a little?
Yeah,
you are glitching out. Maybe move closer to the.
I'm gonna move closer to the hub here.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Although it is cool when you get like a digital thing like this, it looks like a Van Gogh painting a little bit.
Yeah. Is the service
Don't let me
better now?
forget to send you.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah.
It's a little bit better, yeah.
That's a lot better. Yeah. There you go. Now we get like full movement. You're not glitching out. Looking good. You're wearing yoga shorts.
Now let's go like this. Sorry, we got all the yogis behind me fluttering out of the room.
That's perfect. There we go. Yoga training in the morning, ladies.
Boom.
Nice to see you. All right. There we
way,
go. Okay, so Andrew,
quiet breakfast too.
Is it quiet breakfast? Is
they're
it
not supposed to talk?
Yeah,
that's why he was in that other room.
Training on quiet breakfast, which was Lochlin's favorite activity.
Yeah, you can't shut up. That's why. Anyway,
that's why we love him. So Andrew, to go off of Dean's concept of different phases in life. To preface this, I'm in my sober phase. I'm a retired pothead, so everything I saw was very, very clear and very vivid. I was very present for it. And it was about 10:15 at night. We were all sitting upon the fire and sitting in the hot tub. And this beautiful, huge orb of light just takes over the sky. I would say it was probably about the size of the moon. And it wasn't just a 360 light. It actually had different little indentations of no light where it looked like the light was actually bent. So it was 360 of light. And then on each side, there was a little bent piece of no light shooting out from each side. And we all just got dead silent and watched this thing as it slowly flew over everybody. And right when it got over us, it vanished into what looked like another dimension and just kind of sucked itself into its light and then was gone.
Oh my God, I have chills.
Same thing.
It's very similar to, I think, what Andrew saw, though it may have been even closer.
Did it make any noise, Andrew?
No noise.
How far away from you do you think it was? Like, I know it's hard to tell. It's like looking into outer space going, oh, the fucking North Star looks like I can grab it. But like, how far did it feel? Or if you could estimate, because you're in your sober phase, thank you, by the way, you can estimate how far it felt like it was from you, not making any noise, hovering over you.
I would say it was in between where the planes were and where the satellites were.
And what we saw, what Sarah and I saw on May 6th, Dean, to give you reference, felt more like where the planes would have been. So you probably got a much closer look at whatever was out there than that Sarah and I, because it wasn't as big as the moon. It was about half the size of the moon. And just trying to get a reference point for me, like mentally, from where it was, that's how I've been telling people. It looked like it was maybe where a plane would be coming into a town to land, but just the approach. But ours was just sitting there. How long do you think you saw it for, Andrew?
It seemed like forever. like it was one of those moments where, right, in Joshua Tree, you look up at the sky and it's constant action. You're seeing shooting stars, you're seeing satellites, and most of it's really peaceful and you're just enjoying it. And the second this thing came into the sky, everybody stopped breathing. And we all were just started communicating with each other based off staring at this thing and being in awe. And Sarah murmured these words, "That is different." And we all were just stunned and observed, and we're more present than we'd ever been. And I believe we have a video we can send you so you guys can show your audience. But
are you serious? We started this podcast
different.
without a video. You have a video and you didn't send it to us, Andrew?
Sarah, we have a video, right? Yeah. One of the girls got a video.
No way.
See if she can get it to see if Sarah can share it in WhatsApp with me.
Yeah.
If she can.
I want to see that. Okay, so I got some questions. So you this thing hovers over you for what feels like an eternity, but it's maybe a minute or two. Is that correct? It's kind of the
exactly.
I would nobody says a word, and it's not making any sound. A minute and how long? Minute and a half ish.
Minute and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 90 seconds feels like an eternity. But how did you feel? Because Lochlin said when he saw it, he said he felt really peaceful, no fear. And I'm watching Encounters the other night on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have seen it. This is the show on Netflix that details people's alien encounters. And there's this one that happened in Stevensville, Texas, which is apparently this hub for alien activity started in 2008, where there are hundreds of sightings that were the exact same thing. And they all said they felt the same thing, which was this extreme peace. And they also said not only did they feel extreme peace and weren't scared, this thing made no noise and went from 0 to like 2,000 miles an hour, according to all the radar towers that were in the area that didn't have a transponder. 2,000 miles an hour, where it appeared, it disappeared into itself. It was going that fast. Are those kind of it's like a similar explanation or similar narrative? Like, did you feel and experience those things?
Yeah, I think as a chronic thinker, it was a beautiful moment where the second it came into my sight, everything was still. Everything was still, and all I wanted to do was observe and watch. And I don't think a single thought came into my mind as it was passing me other than just be here and enjoy this. And it's like seeing a dolphin or a rare sea creature. It's just special, overwhelming, and it feels good to see. Like there's something about it that opens and expands your mind, and it was exciting.
Interesting. That's like a pretty authentic, like non-accusatory version of what he saw, right? Like he's not saying, "Oh, it was an alien. We got visited by ETs." None of those things. He's like, "Hey, dude, this is one of those things that people talk about that I experienced, and I was like 100% there for it." And I like you probably still don't know what it is, right?
Oh,
it's
no,
one of those things where you're like, I don't want to tell anybody what I saw. I'm glad I saw it with somebody else, so I don't have to fucking go to a campfire and tell them what I saw.
You know what, though? Andrew, I will say this. I have two things to add about Joshua Tree. One, there's just something about that place. And again, I have people been asking me, how was it? And I struggle with the words to explain my 2 weeks down there. Right. And so I've sort of leaned on this. It was transformative. And, but there's just something special about that place. And I desperately want to get back. It grounds you. So the fact that I saw an alien when I was down there is just, you know what I'm saying? Like, and people are like, come on. But I will say this. This is the one thing that I will say about this conversation. I've been having alien conversations on my radio show for years. I'm talking the 90s. If there was ever a major story or I was excited about X-Files or something like that, I would go on the radio and I would start talking about it.
Yeah.
And there's always been this sort of element of, oh, come on. Right? Like, but that's kind of changing. Like when I bring up now in a public setting, I saw an alien, everyone's like, tell me the story. And there is still the Dean sort of thing where Dean's been like, you know, you got teabagged, but there's still the fun side of it, right? But the thing is, the difference for me is that I saw something.
You're all in.
Legitimately feel like I witnessed something from another world when I was down there. And now I truly believe that I have some kind of connection with not just that place, but also the people that I was down there with. And I have a feeling that at 10:15, which would have been 11:15 my time, that would have been right in my REM sleep. I believe that whatever you guys saw somehow made connection with me in my dreams. And that was the reason why I had that dream on Thursday night. And I don't care how fucking crazy that sounds to people.
It's pretty crazy.
I believe that. Andrew,
which is
you
cute.
had something else to add.
Yeah. Andrew wanted to say something.
I believe it. And I think there's an element to Joshua Tree where you're finally away from the city lights and you get this perspective when you look up at the sky. Like, if we're the only beings in this whole stratosphere, that seems to be way more insane of a thought than the thought of aliens and extraterrestrial life up there floating around. And I think something that the city lights do to us, once we start moving to the speed of them, it makes it really hard to look up and see these stars and see all this action. So it's easy to just think we're the only beings. And then you get out here, you're laying under the stars, you're watching whatever it may be actively move around the sky 24/7. And you can't help but be in awe at how many other creatures must be up there.
Yeah, you know what? And it's like, it's egotistical to think that we're it, right? You know, and it's one of those things that I'm really looking forward to if and indeed it ever happens where an alien life form comes down and doesn't just stop over your hot tub, Andrew, but they come down, say hi, have a bush light, maybe do a little light downward dog and go, hey, show me around. And they're like, no problem. Whatever they speak. And you take them around and you show them around. And I'm really excited to see the look on the religious establishment's face when they figure out that we ain't it. You know what I mean? And it's like ignorant to think that if, you know, we're one of trillions of fucking rocks orbiting stars and planets in the universe, in the galaxy, in the Milky Way, in the star system. It is so fucking ridiculous and so short-sighted and funny to think that we're it to that point, right? And I think everybody's past the idea, because you watch that Encounters thing. I highly encourage people to watch it on Netflix. Everybody says the same thing when they see these things, right? There's one family, super religious people. We only believed in God, and now we don't know what to believe because they're in their backyard having a fire in Stevensville, and their neighbor's over going, I saw this thing in the sky. I can't explain it. And they're mocking the shit out of the sky like, oh, yeah, you saw a giant lightning Dorito falling out of the sky that just zipped away at 2,000 miles an hour. And he goes, oh, by the way, they're back. And he points to the sky, and they see it. Now, these people, they all said the same thing. It was like, don't tell anybody. don't tell anybody what you saw. But to your point, that thinking or the perception.
Can I just jump in here quickly?
Yeah, but for sure. But the thinking and the perception of you're crazy if you say you saw something or you say you saw aliens, that's completely disappeared because it doesn't match any kind of sound reasoning, though, that we're alone in the fucking universe is my point.
Dean, it hasn't completely disappeared yet. Like Don Wilson, who posted on his Facebook page, hasn't gotten back to me about coming on the podcast, right?
Oh, he's afraid he's crazy.
And he may never, because he's probably worried about the ridicule of, you know, for people that don't believe that there's something out there, right?
Oh, like guys like me mocking you getting teabagged by aliens in your dream.
I think you're having more fun with it. There's a more sinister element to it, Dean, that I think is subsiding. And I think with the conversation from the governments as well, like, hey, listen, we've been investigating this stuff for years, and they're admitting to that now. I think that's also changing how we interact with one another when it comes to, you know, sightings like what I saw and what Andrew saw down in Joshua Tree. And I think conversations like this are also going to go a long way to quell the stigmatism around it as well. Do you agree, Andrew?
Yeah, and here's the thing, guys, right? There's always going to be doubters. There's always going to be naysayers. There's an element to this where once you start to speak about it, it almost starts to sound like woo woo. So it's really just for the people who have seen it and felt it. Um, and there's no possible way that we're the only people in this huge universe.
Mhm.
And that's exciting. And if you want to believe we're the only people here, all the power to you. It seems a bit limiting and boring to me, quite frankly. Um, but yeah, I think the cat's coming out of the bag, and people are starting to see it and talk about it, and
Be more comfortable talking about it too.
totally,
Yeah, because
totally.
everybody else is talking about it, right? You don't feel like kind of a kook. Like when I saw Ogopogo as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, I remember thinking, I wish Mom can't
It's a
wait
sea
to tell
creature,
everybody about this. And my
Andrew.
dad, the sea creature in the Okanagan, I saw it. It's big and it's scary. I saw it swimming. It's huge and it freaked me out. And my dad, we get to the destination we're going to. My dad's like, we all saw that, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, don't fucking say anything to anybody. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Dude, we just all had this incredible experience. You stopped the car and started screaming, look at that. And we all saw it. And he's like, yeah, I know. But if anybody asks,
Mhm.
we didn't see shit.
We didn't see
And I'm
it.
like, what are you talking about? We totally
changing.
saw it. But that part of it's changing
That's changing.
because of experiences like this where people can let go like online and say, hey, I saw this shit. It's not like back in the day when newspapers would print it and like 10 guys with black briefcases would show up to your house and go, you didn't see a fucking thing, right? To that point. But you are recounting your experience is the exact same experience that Lochlin had. Were you a UFO guy before this? Like, were you one of those guys like Lochlin is, where he's like, I love the topic, love having a conversation about it, or was this kind of out of left field, out of nowhere, or are you one of those guys who smoked enough pot in your life where you're like, fuck, anything's possible? I don't know.
I definitely wouldn't classify myself as a UFO guy, but I would classify myself as being open to possibilities. And once I saw this and felt this, it was a clear moment in my life where I became sure that we're not the only people here. And it was different. It was different. It felt different. And I'll never forget that moment. And I'm not going to be.
What was that feeling you had? You said you had a feeling. What was that? Can you
Peace.
describe it? Peace.
It was so peaceful, and it was just a moment of awe where your brain goes blank and you're just there. You're there. All these little worries, your schedules, your emails, your texts, it becomes so irrelevant when you're in contact with something greater than yourself and potentially greater than the human race. And it's exciting. It's exciting because we're in a weird, tumultuous time as a human race. And I think being in contact with something that's not from this planet is super good for everybody. It gets us out of our head and really just into the moment, which is exciting.
There you go, dude. This guy is
love this guy.
He is good. I love him.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I every time Lochlin sends me a link, I click on it and I end up watching the whole thing, and I'm like, what the fuck were they talking about? But I loved it.
Well, he's a talented broadcaster, that Lochlin Cross. So the last question I have for you, Sarah said she played the Bulls, and that's when the aliens came out the last time when Lochlin was there.
You decided that.
You said it.
Listen. That's part of what we were talking about. Andrew,
I want to know if she played the Bulls. Was she playing the sound bowls before the alien show?
She played the Bulls, and not only that, I also put the campers through a sound healing exercise where I was playing different frequencies to help them align their chakras.
Okay.
And it was that night that the aliens came back.
It's the same. We did the bowl night at at Joshua Tree National Park, and I jokingly said, and this sort of ties into what Andrew was saying. Andrew was making fun of me because as soon as we got comfortable with each other, which was quite quickly, as a group, there was 10 of us.
Yeah.
I started telling everybody like that I was into aliens and I was only in Joshua Tree to see aliens. And Andrew was making fun of me. He was like, you know what? It's the guy that really wants to see them that never sees them. So that was what I thought. That was my first thought when that thing showed up in the sky on May 6th for me. I was like, oh my God. Andrew's going to think, and that's why I was looking around so desperately, because I'm like, Andrew's going to make fun of me because I'm going to tell everybody that I saw something. There's going to be no witnesses. Luckily, I had Sarah standing there beside me. But that's to Andrew's point. I think there is an element of that as well, where people are like, okay, the guys that are way into it, they're into it way too much. They're the ones that talk about it. Like, I had that similar experience.
aliens aren't too far away from us then as people, where we're like, you try hards. I'm not giving you shit.
Yes.
And then so the aliens know all the fucking loser try hards out there from MUFON who are like, don't go visit Dan Aykroyd. He's way too into us. We need to go visit people that don't believe in us.
Dan Aykroyd, because every time I interviewed that lunatic, they would tell me, please don't bring up aliens, don't bring up this, don't bring up government conspiracies.
Dude, every time I've interviewed Dan Aykroyd, like I interviewed him about his vodka, like, I don't know, it's got to be 10 years ago, like Crystal Skull vodka or whatever it's called.
Yes.
He comes on the show, I'm like, tell me about the vodka. He goes, I could, but I'd rather tell you about MUFON. It's a tremendous organization in Chicago led by this gentleman. You'll love him. UFOs are real, fellas. And they're like, okay, great. How about that vodka? Yeah, vodka's great too, but UFOs, they're greater. And here's this guy, like literally went off on the whole thing. And so guys like him, or guys like Dr. Stephen Greer, or even a dude in our network like J.M. Guarnieri, who used to be a Secret Service guy for Obama, who I'm pretty sure has seen alien spacecraft. He won't even say that he has. I'm like, have you seen it? And he's like, I can't talk about it. I'm like, fuck, that's why you're here, to talk about it, dude. Let us know. Have you seen the spacecraft? He's like, can't tell you anymore. I just can tell you that I interview a lot of UFO guys now, and I'm like, holy shit. But to your point, these sightings are regular occurrence now. And to that point, in the United States, there's a dude who just got in touch with the guy in Canada. His name's Patrick, I think. Patrick and Jimmy down in the States. They're in charge of the UAP programs and aerial surveillance in Canada and the United States. They just made contact for the first time, and they're apparently sharing files because Congress, because the only good thing Donald Trump did was like, let's talk about UFOs. Put all that shit out there every year. Let's get a full report on the things we've seen and the things we haven't. And it's fucking on. Like, we're not just getting these sightings from people like Andrew. We're getting like Pentagon video of little peanuts flying across the sky, stopping and then going straight up at like 5,000 miles an hour. Getting videos of like flying objects that are going 4,000 miles an hour on the surface of the water, like, and coming out of the water to that point. And I'm like super realist. I'm one of those dudes. It's like, if I can't smell it, feel it, see it, or touch it, I'm not in. That's why I don't believe in religion at all. Like, at all. They're all man-made. They're so stupid. But you can't deny the things we've seen, the firsthand accounts, and the fact that you've actually had these experiences. Like, it's that close to me now, right? So it gets a little closer with every experience, and your experience dictate your values and reality. So fuck, I'm really into this shit now. I'm not a MUFON guy. I'm still gonna mock you mercilessly over your explanation of these visits.
And I'm okay with it.
Thank you.
But I also think that go, Andrew.
Well, Lochlin's, he's walking a dangerous line of being the UFO guy. And when you're the UFO guy, it's easy to look at him and be like, this guy saw what he wanted to see. Right?
Yeah.
I'm here as a musician, as a feeler, as a human who's not looking for them. And when it came into my spectrum of sight, I was sure that it was something extraterrestrial.
And not only that, I truly believe this, that there's some kind of connection that we all have now from that first sight, from that place, Joshua Tree, from all the bizarre coincidences
by the way,
that we experienced.
I'm just letting you know.
I'm telling you right now, that book I sent you, Andrew, if you get a chance, you need to listen to it. Diane Walsh Encounters, because it talks a lot about sort of the I'm going to mess it up anyway. And she comes at it from being a religious scholar.
Dude, you know what's funny is that in this Encounters movie that I watched on Netflix yesterday, they were talking about that. And this dude who's like a super religious dude who used to actually work for the Department of Homeland Security, who's had these close encounters with these actual beings or ships or whatever. He's like, there's a direct connection. Angels or aliens, dude. To that point, that's kind of what the book talks about. That's the book. Yeah, where that's the assumption, right? And you can read it in like ancient texts and scriptures in Egyptian time, or, dragons, which were back in the day, they say dragons were these flying ships, right? That's and celestial beings that came down from the sky that imparted wisdom on certain cultures thousands of years ago. And again, it's a bit of a stretch for me because all we have are paintings on caves and shit like that. However, kind of makes a little more fucking sense, doesn't it, than anything else we've heard?
And what's the next step for us?
The next step is we get Lochlin in touch with the guys from Ancient Aliens. Have you guys seen that show?
One of my favorites. Yeah. Ancient Aliens and Ancient Apocalypse. Done by the same group of people. So good.
These are your people, Locke.
Yeah.
I gotta hang out with these people. Yeah, for sure.
Got to hang with these people. All their hair is like statically charged by the aliens. They can barely sit in a room and talk. They're so hyped. I think he would fit in better there than he does here, Dean.
I'm just afraid that he's going to become like Tom DeLonge from Blink 182, who like quits the band and just goes on this full like alien hunting
Tom
mission.
And I are like this.
Like, that's what I'm afraid. Yeah.
Tom DeLonge.
He totally quit Blink 182 because he met with Stephen Greer.
He did take some time.
Yeah.
He's behind that whole movement to publicize the what the government knows about aliens and fallen crafts
but he also lost like for 10 years everybody like mocked the shit out of him every time he put something online. I don't know if you can handle that. That's my point. Like if you're gonna be the UFO guy, the new UFO guy, if you're gonna switch careers to go fuck radio, I'm done talking about pop culture and studies about the world's biggest hamburger.
I'm going full on aliens.
Full alien. Like just dig into it like Mad Mike Morgan or whatever his name is. Dig right into it. So just be the guy. Is my point.
I got a quick story about Tom DeLonge. And this is probably one of the more memorable interviews I've heard about Tom that didn't involve Tom, because I've watched a lot and read a lot about Tom DeLonge and his involvement with the alien, with aliens and whatnot. Travis Barker from the drummer, he commented about Tom's obsession with and the impact it had on the band and all that. And his comment was interesting. He was like, listen, when you hear him talking out loud, you can't help but think, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, and Tom goes deep. Like he goes into the conspiracy theories behind it, how they've kept it quiet for years. Like he's balls deep in this. Okay. But Travis was like, listen, you can have whatever opinion you want about Tom, but as far as I'm concerned, as a friend of mine, you couldn't help but believe him. He said one-on-one, and you can say whatever you want about this man, one-on-one, I felt like what he was saying was truly authentic. And whether or not that was because he believed it or because it was true, he said, I was on board. I was in the canoe with Tom when he was talking about it. So that had an impact on me, right? Because I think a lot of times there is that movement to disqualify these types of things, these sightings, because people
way more fun.
They can't wrap their head around the idea of it being
and it's
true.
Way more fun.
It's fun. Yes.
Yeah, it's way more fun. Like as soon as you started talking about those silver alien nuts that came down to help you levitate above the park in Chicago, or wherever the fuck you were, I was like, was there a shaft? And you're like, there was a knob. And I'm like, okay, great. Now we're into comfortable territory. There was a little thing
on the ball. Like, anyway, and it was like
a wiener, a cock, an alien cock.
It wasn't no.
That's more fun and it's more comfortable for me because I don't want to be interested in asking you questions about your alien encounter like I believe it in public. But in private, I'm all in. I'm like, tell me more. Yeah. Like I want to sit down with Andrew and I want him to comb through the experience. I want him to draw pictures. I want him to explain everything to me because I want to find out about all this stuff.
And Andrew's a way better artist than me.
In front of other people, probably.
So here's a couple of things that I want to do because we're going to let Andrew go here.
Quiet
because he's got to take part in Quiet Breakfast. Okay, so here's the thing that you might not know about Andrew. Andrew is a unbelievable artist and musician. So there's two things that are going to happen out of this. One, someone's going to send me the video that you guys have, and we'll find a way of sharing that with people. So when you get a minute, Andrew, if you could, help spearhead that and get that video to me on WhatsApp, and we'll get that out. The other thing I can't wait for, Andrew, is the song that you're going to write about this experience. And I can't wait to hear that.
It is on the way. Don't doubt it for a second.
I knew it. I knew it.
I was just
Don't
thinking
doubt
if
it.
you
get a
could
chance-
ukulele.
I'm gonna clip some audio, some little audio stanzas from you guys from this podcast.
All right.
Angel Card, grab this. Go find him on Apple or Spotify.
Is that you?
This
Is that you?
Yeah,
Andrew?
yeah.
That's me.
He's an unbelievable musician.
How
Yeah.
old are you? How old are you, by the way?
I'm 30.
You're 30. Dude, your roommate is old enough to be your kid. That's hilarious.
We're not roommates anymore. It was just 2 weeks in the desert.
Your new best
Yes.
friend. You guys are new besties. Andrew, listen, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. Lochlin said awesome things about you. You're a fun dude. Really appreciate you taking a minute to kind of recount your experience in an authentic way. Sorry we fucked up Quiet Breakfast.
No, thank you. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. Hope to be on again soon, and keep doing what you're doing, boys.
Yeah, we will.
Please
brother.
say
Take
hi
care.
to Lisa for me, okay? That she
I will.
was in the
She's
back
right
making.
here.
Okay, yeah. Please say hi to her, and at some point I need to get a chance to meet her in person. So she runs the Kootenai Yoga
Cool.
School with her daughter Addie. So, and I didn't get a chance to meet her when I was there from the 1st to the 15th.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
I
Yeah.
miss you, brother. I miss you, man.
I miss you too, brother. Till next time.
All right. Yes. Take care, man.
Take care. Andrew Vetter, fellow yogi. Did I sense some emotional man friend connection there with you and him? Did I sense that?
We became really good friends really fast.
You just said
Yeah.
I miss you to him.
Yeah, I do.
Not a Lochlin thing.
No, man, we experienced something down there together. It was again, like I said, it was
so crazy.
so glad I did that. So
Dude,
glad I
it's
did
so
that.
Crazy.
That
I'm glad you did it too. Not only did you see an alien and did you have new friends, a whole new group of friends from around the world, right around the world.
Yeah.
You now are a full-on alien guy.
Okay, here's the other thing too. With respect to that experience, Andrew, he's there doing some work for Kootenai Yoga School now because of his how great of a musician he is.
Mhm.
And his connection with sound and healing and that kind of thing. So I'm so proud of the fact that he's found sort of a path in this community, and that I think it's going to be very beneficial for him and for people that get a chance to experience what he does. That's amazing. But the other thing about Andrew that I don't know if I mentioned, he's a surfer. So he lives in San Diego. He lives just off the water. And he teaches people to surf. And I legit said to my wife, and I'd like to do it this year. I don't know if it's going to be in my cards, but at some point, I'm going to literally take our little camper down to San Diego. We're going to drive down there, and the wife and I are going to get surfing lessons from my new brother, Andrew.
From your new best friend?
And I'm not even kidding you. I've been
You guys
thinking about
best
it
friends? Is he your new best
nonstop.
friend? Is he your new best friend?
I would say he's up there on the best friend category. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
He's a great kid, man.
What a change in Lachlan Cross. He's got a best friend who's a man. He says things like I miss you to his friends. He's admitting to seeing UFOs in the sky. He's admitting to being an alien
I saw
portal.
a UFO. And
Yeah,
listen,
I know you did. I know you saw an unidentified flying object. I know you did.
I think I honestly believe this now. After going through what I went through with that dream last week, and then hearing that they saw something that could have been at exactly the same time, I truly believe that we have some sort of connection as a group now. I believe that. As crazy as that sounds,
it's like those dudes from Alive that crashed in the Andes in their mountain and ate their friends. It's like they've been best friends forever.
sometimes I
They are.
really dislike
Like,
your
hey, Bob.
analogies.
Hey,
your
Bob, how you doing?
metaphors.
I'm pretty good. How you doing today? Good. You know, we share a bond. What's that? What's that?
Yeah.
Terry's gluteus maximus. Not many people have done that, huh? Nope.
And Jerry's forearm.
Yeah, you shared those guys shared what could only be described as the world's most horrific experience, but it's a life-changing experience, right?
They're connected.
They're connected.
Thanks for destroying.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Hey,
my
quick question.
lovely story.
Oh, it's a beautiful story. I just wanted to add a little postscript to it. So, we're in, and this is maybe why the aliens are coming, is because they see the world kind of going to hell in a handbasket, wars, rumors of wars. Yesterday, France and England both announced that they were considering conscription, mandatory conscription.
They had that in Israel.
Getting back into the war footing on a general basis. Usually in wartime, conscription can happen, right? Happened in the United States, Vietnam. Fuck, it's like crazy to think. You and I are far too old to get conscripted, so like we're good. But there were rumors that Canada was talking about the possibility of a program that wasn't mandatory, but something like heavily incentivized for young people to join the service. So almost like a paid / mandatory service position that would be available for Canadians. And it's not just one party talking about it, it's both. And the reason why everybody's talking about it is because Finland does it. All the Baltic countries are now doing it. England and France are considering doing it because of the threat coming out of the East, which is Russia. You see it happen today. I put a quick tweet out for a conversation, and it's amazing because the conversation has been robust. Everybody's like, fuck no, hard no, not interested. No, it's the other side of the world, not interested. But you see some people that are like, we are on war footing now. Like we are in a time when, countries should be ramping up, whether it be ammunition production, whether it be war games production. The threat coming out of Russia is not getting any less threatening. Threat from the Islamic State, Islamic dictatorship, religious dictatorships. Like their time is now. So France and England are like, let's buck up. Let's just do mandatory service for people. Now you're talking about a couple 100 million people there, right? That maybe a third of the population or a quarter of the population would have to be forced into service. It is such a foreign concept to us in 2024 in the Western world, though maybe not in the States because of Vietnam, but in Canada, the idea, like we're the fucking people that ordered the fish, they gave us the chicken and we ate it anyway. The idea that Canadians might, or Canadian parents or their sons and daughters might be okay with the idea that we're going to serve in our military, it is not going to fly, dude. Like I cannot imagine. I canvassed my sons between the ages of 18 and 24. I'm like, guys, if this happened in Canada, what do you think? Would you join? My one son said, it depends on what they'd offer you. And I'm like, oh, okay, smart. What would it be? He goes, they'd have to offer me like $100,000 a year just to serve. And they would have to come with an education, have to come with this, come with that. The other two are like, fuck,
that's not how it works.
No, I know that. I know it's not how it works, but the government is considering incentivizing some kind of mandatory service in this country like they are in other socially democratic countries, which I find fucking hilariously weird. Really? Because it tells a story. Like if they're doing that, I don't know if
I find it
in socially democratic countries in Europe, right? What do they know that we don't? That's the question I have.
Well, okay.
Why? So what are they preparing for? And if we're talking about it, what are we preparing for? That's a fucking major question when it comes to
take that out of it. Can I just remove that? Can we just put a pin in that and move that over to the side for a second?
Sure.
Because I think this has more to do with not so much it's the catalyst that's getting the conversation going. But for me, I think it's more about how do we get this next generation of kids more politically minded, more patriotic, more engaged in the world as a whole. And I think this is something that might actually work. The mandatory thing, I find I would have a hard time agreeing to that. If somebody said, okay, we get to vote on this, I would and there were options, I would say, listen, here's how I think you should do it. You should provide it as an opportunity between the ages of 18 and 24, like you said. But it shouldn't be mandatory. It should be, this is 1 year of your life, and this is what you get from it. And it's not pay. It's none of that. You get to experience what life in the military would be like. And I think you'll get enough people that volunteer. I think you'd be surprised to make it worthwhile in Canada. In other parts of the world, I think you have to make it mandatory.
What if what if they did? What do you think the reaction would be like from Canadians if they did make some kind of term of service for some sort of military? What do you think we would do? Dude, I think there would be a revolution in this country.
No,
I think I think it's we're so apathetic that people would fight to the death to stay apathetic, to not have to get up and vote, not have to get up and go and serve, not have to get up and actually put themselves in harm's way. Canada is one of those countries.
No, I don't agree with you.
So good for so long that for the last 75, 80 years, we've forgotten, the idea of service to your country and your people and democracy and all those things.
That's
I
why
had a conversation with someone the other day, and they were like, and the conversation centered around, he thought this need for dictatorships or some type of strong, he called it strong leadership. What he was talking about was dictatorships. And he's like, dude, it's like Iraq. You're never going to get all the people from all the cultures to observe some kind of humane way to treat each other. It's just, you're never going to do it. Right. So in Canada, he's advocating for Pierre Poilievre to be the prime minister because he believes that he's going to change the constitution to have some kind of dictatorial rule that makes it illegal to do certain things that make Canada Canada. Right. Which is one of those things. And one of the things that came out of that was the idea that the military industrial complex in Canada is sorry. Like, it's just a shitty operation. We've known that for a long time. We mock anytime we get a new helicopter. It's like 40 years old. We mock it all the time. Right. And then we get angry when we buy new shit. We're like,
I was trying not to let that frame my opinion of the potential, for conscription or a mandatory.
Like, it's cool to join the American Army because they got nice shit, right? They have all the new tech. We got nothing. We got Cessnas and some dinghies.
But I will say this on
some old guns.
I'm not an expert on what Canada's military is and isn't, so I'll be careful. But I have heard from people that I know that have spent any time in the military that the one thing that Canada is proud of is the training. So there is an element of pride in our military and what it is that we have. Based on that, we might not have the coolest gadgets and the best equipment, but the people that do get involved in the military are serious about it. They're good at it, and they're well trained, and there is a pride in that. When they have exercises, Canada always does well and shows up well. So there is something to be proud of, from our military.
Yeah, totally there is, but it's not that I'm talking about from a recruitment standpoint. Like, you're not going to get people that are going to go, fuck, that looks cool. We get to go and drive a green ATV around in a 60-year-old Mercedes. That'd be awesome. Seriously.
Yes. But there's more to it. I think there's a segment of the population, Dean, that might be interested in exploring a year in the military.
Oh, totally. I think it's a good idea. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea for people. Like, if one of my sons came to me and said, Dad, I'm going to join the service, I'd be like, fucking right. Good for you. Where do we go sign up? Let's go do that. I think it's great. I think it's going to teach you discipline, how to work as a team. You're going to acquire new skills. You're going to pay for your education. Listen, I think joining the military is a great idea. I'm talking about floating the idea to a group of people who, come out in terms of 30% of us show up to vote, right? A group of people that are largely like, whatever. Like how mandatory service would go over in this country. There's nothing to recruit. We're pretty apathetic. We don't have a lot of good shit. It's not well funded. Hasn't been in the past. We generally just rely on the United States to cover our ass, which they do in case a Chinese weather balloon floats into our airspace. They'll come over and shoot it down for us. So it's just
really good pilots, and we've got some planes, right?
I know we do, but that's not the point. My point is that military conscription comes with, in this country, if they're going to do that, they have to have a military to conscript to. Number one, it has to be attractive. Number two, I just think it's such a mental sea change for people that have lived in this country for as long as you and I have, in a very peaceful time, with the idea that, Little Jimmy at the age of 18 could get an email or a note at his house. You might open up the mail. He's like, hey, you got to show up to CFB Borden at 0800 hours on a Tuesday, or you go to jail. Like that's.
I don't think they can do it that way. I agree with you. I think we're so far gone.
But they can. I know, but they can. And that's the thing. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying that is available. Yeah.
I'm saying if this is a program that they want to be successful, they've got to ease this population, because everything you said about where we are as a society, as a culture in Canada is true. I mean, you're making broad statements, right? But at the same time, you're not wrong. So I think, again, back to the possibility of this being an option. If it's not mandatory, it might be, they might get some decent volunteers. Like they might get some good numbers, Dean. Like,
I hope
if it's an option when you're 18, take yourself back to when you were 18 and the world was your oyster and you didn't know what you wanted.
We're young, impressionable.
Dad wants you to be an electrician.
Complex. Yeah, and you're like, fuck that,
Mom's
I want
saying
adventure.
Mom was like, oh, you're a great painter. But you really like cars. Maybe you want to just take a year to yourself and go join the military. And dude, I don't know. It might work.
One of my best friend's sons joined the military. Spent 2 years driving dignitaries around the streets of Baghdad, got put into a couple of hot zones, came back, loved what he did, still loves what he does. Same age as my son, 24. And just can't get the idea that he's a professional soldier out of his mind. Loves it, lives for it, thinks it's the greatest. When he's not in service, he's off doing security detail for other people because he loves the lifestyle. To that point, young dude, loves the action, loves the, what comes with it, loves all the gadgets, loves getting dressed. He loves it. It's a great idea. It's a great idea for people. People are not, this isn't like the fucking year 1930 anymore. It's not the 60s.
You can't, it's mandatory though.
You cannot, we're so progressive and selfish that there is no way people are going to get that thing that's a mandatory service. It's not going to make this country look like just a bunch of hooligans. But the thing that scares me is why we're talking about it. Because, to have the conversation about conscription mandatory service in this country, even just a conversation, it's not, is it good, is it bad, how will we react? It is, what is the purpose? What are you driving at? What is this country worried about that they're not telling us? What is the United States worried about they're not telling their people? What is England and France, who've openly talked about tabling a bill to make mandatory service in that country mandatory for people between the ages of 18 and 24? Why are they doing that? That's what keeps me up. Not the idea that it might happen, because we're too old. We're not going to go unless they want like a systems engineer or like a Good Morning Vietnam kind of radio guy, which you and I would be great for.
Vietnam.
Yeah, we'd kill that. But
I have a theory.
It is awfully concerning at this point, is my point.
And I think we all should be concerned. And I think that's actually part of it. I think there's nothing looming behind behind some wall or whatever that we don't know about, that they're not telling us about, that, there's no pending invasion, Dean.
The Arctic. I think they'll come through the Arctic.
Nothing's going on. What I think's happening is people who are a lot smarter than you and I, who are looking back at history and how things have happened and how we're repeating our mistakes, right? And these paths that we're on, where these leaders, these what's the word for it? What people talk about Trump, the type of leader he is.
Autocrat, dictator.
Yes. Dictator's too hard. The one underneath of it.
Autocrat.
Where there's an autocratic sort of progression in politics in Western civilization right now. We're kind of leaning on that. We're pushing back on this woke culture again. I hate that term, but we're pushing back on that, and we're leaning into these types of things. The fact that we're having this conversation is a sign of it. So I think it's fear, but I also think that people who are historians and people who are experts in what has happened to us in the past and the mistakes that we've made in the past, and how now we're duplicating a lot of that in today's day and age, we're like a Cuban Missile Crisis away from everything going from shit to fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I don't think that's too over the top to say out loud, or am I wrong?
I don't know. I think that's your perspective. I don't know if you're right or wrong. I think, right and wrong.
Look at where we're at, though.
Your experiences. Yeah.
Look at like the Middle East, Russia, China. Just look at, there's a reason why these conversations are happening.
Yeah, there are. And it's not just the Middle East and Russia, right? China, they're doing drills in the Taiwan Strait, apparently going to take out Thailand or something like that. They're going to head back in there. And there's a real push and pull, right? I think the difference that you see today from when we grew up, like we grew up in a very peaceful time. War was like, so glad that's over. So glad I never lived that.
There was a Cold War thing in the 80s. I remember,
80s,
I remember
90s.
that tension a little bit, but not.
Yeah. And then Gorbachev came to town and he's like, let's stop being communist over there.
It wasn't oppressive.
Out of the country.
Right?
No. And then the Berlin Wall came down. That was a World War II relic. Obviously, Russia took half of Berlin when they split. So that was East Germany, belonged to Russia. No one grew up in that time when Germany was two countries, a Russian country and a German country. On the Russian side, they were held in by a wall, got shot if they tried to go over it. Full on communist barbarism. That's where Putin cut his teeth. But it's like a popular notion now, right? Dictatorships, fascism is a communist notion with people. And that's, I think, literally why you're hearing about mandatory service. It is the same. And as you pointed out, history dictates today. I mean, they had a Nazi rally that sold out Madison Square Garden in 1937. Sold it out. People showing up in Nazi memorabilia, regalia. Same thing when you see like a Russia flag in someone's Twitter bio. Same thing. It's exactly the same thing. You just have a group of disenfranchised people who truly do believe that a dictatorship or some kind of fascist dictator will enable them to live freely according to the values that they have. But those values are shit values, right? And we see that all the time. You see it with, MAGA, Maple MAGA. The idea that one guy, Donald Trump, should not be subjected to, general laws, like real laws that you shouldn't commit treason, steal nuclear documents.
Well, I don't know what the percentage of people down in the States is that believes that, but he believes it.
But he believes it. But here's the thing. Around 48% of that country believes that that's okay too. That if you give that guy that kind of power, he's going to advocate for you because you believe the wrong thing is right too. Right? You believe stealing is okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter as long as your ideology gets promoted. No, it is, dude. Because
I don't know if it's that simple. I think there's a little bit more.
There is not a human being that's going to vote for him that isn't aware of his 91 indictments. There's not a human being that votes for him that isn't aware that he's a rapist. There's not a human being aware that isn't that's going to vote for him that isn't aware that he stole fucking state secrets people died to protect. Not one. They're going to do it anyway. That's the popularity of what we're talking about. That's the popularity of fascism
as well.
And it is a populist movement, and it is very real. We know it's bad. To them, it ain't. To them, we're the baddies.
Well,
progressive people are the bad people because we're telling them they need to be better, and they don't like that. They say they have the ability to be as selfish as they want, and that's the representation of those values at its apex, which is MAGA and Maple MAGA. So, like we can tell them they're wrong and laugh at them all you want. But conscription and mandatory service in socially democratic European countries, and maybe this one, is coming to a country near you. So here we are again. If history dictates our present circumstances, we're fucking right there. It is 1937 all over again. There was a shooting at a Jewish elementary school here in Toronto yesterday. You hear about that? Yeah. Some people came around and shot up a Jewish elementary school. Not only that, F off Jews, swastikas, schools that are walking around in schools, universities, high schools where Jewish kids are getting their asses kicked again like it is 1937.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
That
whole
why mandatory service is happening.
I hate jumping into that conversation because that whole thing is a complete
That's
mess.
a different conversation.
What's happening in the Middle East right now?
But what's happening here as a result of that?
No way of being
fest.
right. There's no way.
But what's happening here as a result of that shit fest is we are literally considering forcing people into the army because some people in certain positions, as you pointed out, look at history and go, here we go again. And those are the markers, right? So when the next time you see a Pierre Poilievre conference speech, the next time you see some kind of political rally,
and you say that both sides are looking at this as a potential option. Like, let's say Trudeau pulls a horseshoe out of his ass and has a win as well. You can't blame the possible conscription on one side or the other. I think
I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying that the way we are using ideas today and ideologies today against each other, that quiet war is becoming very public, and it is starting to become material in a way where your sons and daughters are going to get forced into service to fight for ideas and against ideas. And these ideas that we have literally exist in politics today. So if Pierre Poilievre wants to do conscription, he'll do conscription for the purposes and reasons and countries that he wants to work for and with. Justin Trudeau, exact same. I mean, the purposes of this, it's not going to go away.
I'm glad you framed it with respect to a battle of ideas, because that's what we're dealing with. That's why I always get a little twitchy when we start having conversations about why we're at where we're at and what party represents what, because I think it's very, very complicated. Yeah. And we've proven that by trying to figure out what the hell's going on in the States with Trump. But there is a major push back on the progressive ideologies in the world that we live in, especially in the West right now, and for good reason. And I think I'm getting the sense, I'm hopeful, because as somebody who is like fixed immediate, like very, very like fundamentally in the middle, and sees both sides, sees the strengths and weaknesses of both sides, because I'm wildly intelligent. And I've been downloaded a bunch of information from Alien Life, and I'm now a portal.
Yeah.
This battle that we're having right now, you nailed it. It's not figureheads. The figureheads of it, yes, are causing confusion, and they're a lot of times misrepresenting one side or the other, because you can't say that you can't comfortably in a conversation, regardless of where you are in the world, go, yeah, I believe everything that Trump says. No, you defend what Trump's doing based on your ideas and your ideology, and maybe something from the progressive left that has pissed you off, so that you might actually take a chance on a guy who has been charged with rape and la 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 la, because you're worried about the fact that there's 14 tents in your backyard, right?
You're worried you're going to have to put he, him in your bio, right?
Exactly.
That's your biggest concern.
Everybody comes at it from a different vantage point, right? And wherever you fall on this wild spectrum of ideas and ideology, whether you're into and a lot of guys are just saying this out loud now. I heard this from a guy I was golfing with yesterday. I just want to put somebody in charge that's going to fucking fix everything that's wrong with Canada. Right? Like, and he doesn't know what's wrong. He's just mad at the progressive ideology that he thinks is having some sort of impact on his life. Right. Yeah. And I'm like,
well, but part of it is
got a place in the Bahamas. You've got a place in Florida. You fly private. Your wife's on the phone right now fighting with a points card because they didn't get points on their, like take a step back.
Yeah. How terrible your life is. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is that, any good cult, and that's what we're doing. It'll be a war between cults, right? That's all.
Taking some big swings today.
Well, fucking, it's true. Any cult that tells you this is how a cult predicates itself. Starts off with one guy. Anybody can start one. Fuck, I could start one if I wanted. It's so easy to do.
An alien cult as soon as we get off this podcast.
Clearly. But you do. What you do is you tell a certain group of people you're with them. And then you tell them that we're all victims. And then you tell them that if you want to be free from if you want to be happy, if you want all your dreams to come true, I can make those dreams come true. All you have to do is follow me. And you're like, okay, great, because I'm so sick of this life. I want someone else to live it for me, solve my problems, because I can't problem solve on my own because I'm literally too fucking stupid. And so these cults grow in popularity because people go, oh, my feeling brain feels really good about myself because I'm part of a community. I'm active. I'm camping out in a ditch at the border of Saskatchewan and Alberta, riding horses, and I got people cheering for me. And then they're like, we can't be wrong because this feels so good, but they've really muted their thinking brains to the point where it's like, okay, you're losing money here. You're living in the ditch. You're taking a dump in a porta-john. You've left your kids at home. You've abandoned your family because you want to fight about a tax rebate that you're going to get. And you go, okay, well, if that's the case, then what do we have? We have a group of people that truly have given away their agency for a cult. And that cult is politics. That cult is religion. And they work so beautifully well together that we are literally seeing wars being fought in the Middle East and Ukraine over those ideas. And those ideas are man-made and they are cults. And those cults eventually turn into religions because that is how every religion is born. Do you have enough people in your religion, in your cult? You can call it a religion. Scientology is a cult. It has religious status, tax exempt status. Every single religion in this country does. If you get over 200 people, you yourself can apply to become your own religion, and you yourself can enjoy that atmosphere of dumb people believing everything you have to say. You can take their money from them. You can take their agency from them. You can make them do things like go and camp out in Richmond, Saskatchewan, like Romana Dadula is doing with all those fucking freaks from her little gathering of assholes that don't think they have to pay their taxes or their water bills and think that the government of Canada belongs to this Filipino immigrant who looks like the fucking missing link Lucy. So if we're going to sit here and have a conversation about how easy it is to start a war by starting to, curate mushy-brained people into thinking you're going to solve their problems, that's where you start. And so you've got a bunch of people in Canada that are going to vote for some asshole named Pierre Poilievre because all he's done for the last 2 years is tell them he's the only person that can solve their problems. And so the fucking fascinating part is people then invent problems for themselves. And they say, you're right. You're right. My life does suck. I hate me and I hate this. So I'm going to give you my money. My money. I'm going to give you my rent money. I'm going to buy a flag. I'm going to show up to an event. I'm going to cheer for you and give you my time at the age of 60 years old that I will never get back to this jackass and his friends because I don't want to have any part in any agency in my own life anymore because I'm just too fucking tired or I'm just too fucking stupid. And that's, dude, that's everybody. That's everybody that shows up to any political rally. I said that on Twitter the other day. You show up to a political rally, you give some fucking guy your money, some woman your money to sit in front of them and have you to tell you how much your life sucks and how awful your existence is and how that person is the only person that can save you. You, my friends, got suckered. You're in a fucking cult. That's all that is. Period. End of story.
Yeah, but there are a lot of mistakes being made, and that I have a lot of problems having these conversations because I don't necessarily think.
Dude, you can't argue.
We are where we are. It's very complicated, and there's reasons why we are where we are. And you know what? Listen, the bigger issue I think right now, and I think because that group that you so eloquently referenced, the reason why that group continues to grow and gain momentum, and the reason why we're probably going to be dealing with a PP government here after the next election next year, the reason that group is because we are the other side gaslights and is not being honest with their impact on the issues that we're having today. And that's the thing that I think.
Correct. And by the way, they are not exempt. Do you know how many fucking screaming idiots have been arrested in Trudeau's name? Lots. Dina Sharif comes to mind. Do you know how many fucking morons believe they're like warriors for children's sexuality?
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, the whole thing is crazy. The whole
honest fucking God. Yeah. And that's a cult in itself too. And it's not like people aren't off the mark when they say, the kettling of society through the militant acceptance of the LGBTQS community. They're not wrong when they say that's a religion too. They're not wrong. They're not wrong when they tell you that if a group like that, which decries abuse, which some people in that group walk around abusing other people in the name of abuse, that's a fucking religion too. That's a cult. Anytime a group of people tell you to have a better world, you got to go hurt the other guy or the other people, you're wrapped up in something pretty fucking gnarly. That's my whole point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just looking up the definition of religion. The belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, ideas about the relationship between science and religion, particular system of faith and worship.
Look up the
pursuit of interest of which someone ascribes supreme importance.
Dictatorship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look up faith.
So it's not wrong for you to make that parallel draw a line between politics and religion.
Totally is. Same thing. Same triggers. Same need.
It very much is.
Yeah.
But again, I think we are where we are at now based on, it's crazy times. And I think, to bring this full circle, when you brought it up that there's a conversation about conscription, I was like, oh, of course there is. Why wouldn't we be talking about that right now? And then I had to go, I had to dig because I didn't read about this before you hit record on the podcast.
I know. I wanted to jump it on you because you're a big military proponent in this country. You have family that served. I have family that served. We both do, but we're both incredibly selfish and like our lives. And I'm like, fuck, I wonder what Lochlin would think of mandatory service for Canadians in this country.
I got to be honest with you, based on where I was when I was a kid. I was pretty dead set on getting into radio, but I went down and I talked to a recruitment officer. They turned me around. They said I was too stupid. They literally sent me home back to Yak. I was in Calgary and I went there with a buddy of mine. My buddy got in and he went and he spent his life in the military. And they told me I was too dumb. So that was grade 11. So I was 16, 17 years of age.
Yeah. I didn't.
Him and I got a hotel room in Calgary. We drove to the recruitment office. We met, did our interviews.
He got in.
You're too dumb. Yeah, you go.
They'll take anybody too. So you really showed them having a 30-year, very successful radio career. Oh yeah, too dumb. Watch this. I'll communicate for a living.
I think they made the right answer. The right decision. I got put in the right lineup. Let's just say that. So
maybe you were too cockeyed. Maybe that was the thing. They're like,
yeah, my eyes are really close together. Maybe I didn't pass the eyes too close together physical. No, all kidding aside, I think I might have, if I'm 18 in 2025, young 18-year-old Locke.
Yeah.
And there's an opportunity and I don't know. I don't even know what the options would be. Do I get to drive something? Do I get to shoot something? I've always been a very proud Canadian.
Yeah.
And if it's sort of put into that kind of a box, you know what? And it's not mandatory. If you told me I had to, that's when I would push back against it. If it was
it's amazing. I was thinking about that. There's a great analogy. I heard a great analogy where a guy posed a question. And the question was this. Someone held a gun to your head and said, I want you to run 24.2 miles as hard and as fast as you can, and you cannot stop until it's done. When you got to the end of that race, if you didn't collapse out of fear, when you got to the end of the race, you would be relieved, but you would probably keep running for your fucking life, right? Would be a terrible fucking experience. If you decided to run a marathon because you had a goal in your mind and you're like, I'm going to run the marathon, you bring your family down there, they're all watching you, they cheer you on as you cheer you on at the finish line. That experience is very different, very rewarding, right? Mm-hmm. To your point, I'm like the first guy with everything. You can say, hey, Dean, you have to take these vitamins. And I'd be like, go fuck yourself. And if someone said, hey, Dean, these vitamins will help you live longer, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll take them. I'll take them right now. I'll take them. But that's the point, is that if you force anybody in anything, which is why none of this stuff will work in this country, because we're not those people. We're those people that, hey, we're cool. we'll eat the fish if you bring us the fish and we order the
I don't
chicken.
think it's a this country thing. I think it's.
I think it is.
I think it's a human thing, dude.
I don't know. Maybe over time, maybe sociologically we've changed. But man, do you remember the pride? Like back in the day, the stories you'd hear of people at the age of like 14 who faked birth certificates just so they could go get shot at in like Germany or other countries.
My grandfather, Gordy.
Yeah, my grandfather too left a very cushy job.
He got a fake birth certificate and joined the war. World War II at the age of 16, 17. He was 16 when he was on a boat. He turned 17 when he hit the land.
Yeah.
In France.
That's the thing. I don't think that exists anymore.
They let him drive a fucking tank.
Of course they did.
18 years old, 17, 18 years old. World War II. He's driving a tank. Yeah, no, you're right. Times have changed. Things are different, but I don't think it's a Canadian thing. I think it's I think we're a lot more similar than we all would care to admit. There's levels of patriotism in different countries. I
think we should start with, if we're going to conscript, start with those people that call Canada tyranny, and then send them to like really hot tyrannical places, and go, okay, you're up.
This conscription thing, the more we talk about it, the more I'm on board. It can't be mandatory.
No.
The more I'm on board for people who would want to do this. If you're 18 to 24, this is 1 year of your life. It's up to you.
Valuable lessons.
This is what you're going to get. You might even get
die.
Might get to see some of the world. Or if they can put together a program that's appealing to somebody in that age group, and it's got to be for men and women.
Yep.
And I don't know where that puts me on your views of who I am and how I think politically or not. I think this is a good idea. You can't force these people to do it. You can't. It'll destroy the whole thing. It'll kill the program. But if you give people an option to volunteer to serve their country for a year here in Canada, I think it would be wildly successful.
I do too if it was incentivized. If you're like, hey, we're going to give you an education. Hey, we're going to give you 60
There has to be something in it. I don't know what that something is, but it had the travel, education. There has to be
not one of those air cadet programs either.
No, you can't just show up in a building and shine the officer's boots for a year. Like that's not going to work. Right? Anyway,
no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it.
I could see myself as a kid doing it.
You could do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it back then. Wouldn't do it now.
I would have.
I know you would have because you're a fucking better man than me.
I don't know if that's it.
Pretty sure that's it. Anyway, appreciate you doing this today.
You have better
interesting
hair.
topics. I do have better hair. They'd be like, hey, listen, you're smart enough, but your hair's too nice.
Okay. All right, buddy.
Work in comms, Dean. Come and work in comms. You and Locke can do the international radio show for the Armed Forces of Canada. Done. That'll be my service to this country. Don't put me in a combat zone, though. Like if there's like, hey, go to this combat zone. I'd be like, no, I'm not going to the combat zone.
Nothing war like appeals to you. Did you ever watch any? Have you watched any war movies?
Love them.
None of that appeals. It's very, very appealing to me.
Doesn't appeal to me at all. Freaks me out. Anyway, I got a split.
Okay, you go. ArdenRoofSystems.com. Sign up for the golf tournament July 5th. Stollery Child Life Program benefiting. Thank you, Dean.
Buddy, good to see you.
Take that call.
I will. I'm not going to take the call. I'm going to sign off and call again. There's Lachlan Cross. At Locker on Twitter is where you can find him. Locker Room, merch page, Locker Room. Go and Google that. Make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel as well, which will be active, I think, in the next couple of days. I got to tell you, we got dinged. We got dinged on YouTube because one of our advertisers runs a body massage parlor. So anyway, people keep complaining. People keep getting angry. I can't do anything about it. So what I'd like you to do is go to the Crier Media YouTube page, Crier Media YouTube, and go and subscribe to that. You can watch that in its entirety. Crier Media, anything that we do there. Dean Blundell show is there. The Charles Adler show is there. The Staff and Graph podcast is there. I believe the O show is there. There's a ton of different podcasts. Go to the Crier Media YouTube page. You can subscribe to any one of them, including this one. Appreciate you spending time with us. Thanks to our partners for making this possible as well. Starting with our guys and girls over at Muse Massage Spa. Make sure you download their podcast, Muse on the Mic. They redefine provocative massage. Check out their podcast on their webpage, musemassage.com, or go to their Patreon channel, subscribe. It is uncensored at Patreon, and it's also highly censored on YouTube because it has to be, right? Because they talk about sex. And they advocate for workers. It is truly one of the best podcasts you'll ever listen to, and they're celebrating the end of their first season, starting their new one in about a week or so. So download and sub for their podcast. It is called the Muse on the Mic podcast. Learn a little bit of something about that industry and advocate for men and women that work in it. Also brought to you by Cantork, makers of rugged, hardworking torque wrenches, Canada's leading industrial tool experts, the very best in sales, service, calibration, maintenance, custom fabrication of industrial torque tools. Go to their brand new website. You can check out all their product services, news about, and their podcast called Talking Torque. You can also get in contact with them on the contact section or become a distributor of their world famous products. Torque wrenches nobody else makes for projects nobody else can make them for. Custom fabricated, taken care of. They make, measure, do everything, including service those tools, boring, tunnel, nuclear, railroad industry. It doesn't matter what it is. They've got heavy machinery locked up when it comes to a torque wrench, industrial torque wrench, by the way. What are those? Are you looking at the screen? You can check it out if you're watching this on our video at Crier Media's YouTube channel. They're torque wrenches, the best in the world. They make them for heavy industry around the world. Experts have been doing it out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada for 20 years, which is where they actually manufacture. Yeah, they do everything in Canada. They're proudly Canadian. Go to cantork.com today. Speaking of proudly Canadian, Fact Check is on it. They want to kill disinformation in the public sphere. And so they've developed some game-killing software that absolutely stops disinformation in its tracks, gives you the full epistemology and pathology behind a lie or information in the form of picture, video, spoken word, or text. If it has a URL, they'll be able to figure out where it came from, how it got to you, and whether or not you could believe it with well-sourced information that you could put back out into the atmosphere so you can correct the record. Go to factcheck.io, FAKTCHEK.io, FAKTCHEK.io. Sign up for their beta test. It is running now, and they're looking for more people to beta test their program. And not only can you beta test it, you can become a fact check verified fact checker. Go to factcheck.io for more details. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Appreciate you spending time with us. Don't forget, everything we do is at Crier Media. Go to crier.co for those details. And, of course, YouTube, Crier Media's YouTube channel. Please subscribe and rate. We'd really appreciate that. It helps us. You can do it anywhere you get your fine podcasts as well. Have a lovely day. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.